What's up and welcome back to Bardown Talking Hockey, episode number 177, presented by the Barroom Network. It is the home of everything related to the great sport of hockey. My name is Vinnie Parisi, and I am super thrilled that I still believe the New Jersey Devils are going to win the Stanley Cup. And this right here, this is Frank Mueller, and he is the king of all beans. Frank, what's up, dude?
What's up, VP? How you doing?
Doing good. I'm thrilled, actually.
Are you?
Devils keep winning. They keep winning, dude.
I told
They
you.
keep winning. There was a
Nothing to be
little
worried
bit of a
about.
rough patch, of
Yeah.
a rough patch in week two.
A little slow start, kind of. The global series they started out great, but
Yeah,
then they kind
A
of like
little-
slowed down a little bit.
yeah, the rough return to North America, I
Mhm.
guess you could say. But then things started rolling again, so they're in prime position to kind of keep it going. Super thrilled about that. We'll get to your Chicago Blackhawks in a bit. In fact, we'll just get right into the NHL conversation in period number one. Got him.
Yeah, I didn't know if we're throwing it to period one or what are we doing.
I told you.
But then you're like, we'll just run through it all at once, and I thought, I don't know.
Comedy. Well, he'll be ready for period number two, folks. Frank, I was stunned when I heard the statistic
Yeah.
that since coming into the league, they came in the same year. Sidney Crosby and Alexander Ovechkin were never the two of the three stars of the week in the history of their careers until last week. I was flabbergasted. I was like, Sidney Crosby, the guy who later this week is going to score his 600th career goal. Alexander Ovechkin, the guy who probably maybe later this year, regardless of what Frankie says, is going to break the record for the most goals in the history of the NHL. Those two guys, by the time it's all said and done, there's actually a good chance Sidney Crosby's the NHL's second all-time leading scorer. Like, I could see him passing Yager and being the second leading scorer in NHL history, only behind the Great One. And Ovechkin will probably break the Great One's record either late this year or early next year. And those two guys haven't been the stars of the week.
That's hard to believe.
What a crazy stat.
I would have never guessed. I would have never guessed, right? Like, they've been around now like 2 decades, 20 years. And never being the first stars of the week or like in the top 3 in one given week. It boggles my mind. But hey, both have been great this week. Ovechkin's got 9 points in 4 games. Crosby's got 7 points in 3 games.
How many of those were goals?
Huh?
How many of those were goals?
5. So when he finishes the year on a slump, it's going to be funny. Whenever he's slumping, VP doesn't bring him up. He doesn't want to talk about him. I mean, the facts are facts.
That's just not true. When is he slumped?
When he slumped had 8 goals on the season, we didn't talk about him.
And I admitted it. I admitted it. What are you talking about? I was like, yeah, it's not the best for Ovechkin.
I respect it, right? I get it. I would do the same thing. I would ignore it too when he's slumping. So I get it.
He's not slumping.
No, he's not slumping right now, right? But but the Capitals have been great. The Penguins and the Capitals are moving in opposite directions right now. Capitals have been great. Penguins are dropping in the standings. Both teams, they meet tonight. Both teams couldn't be meeting at a better time because both players are on a hot streak. This 20-year rivalry is going strong. The 70th all-time meeting between Crosby and Ovechkin. During their career, Crosby and the Penguins have gotten the better of Ovechkin in those games. Crosby has more points than Ovechkin, which is something you'd expect, and Ovechkin has more goals than Crosby in those games, which is something you could expect as well. I think both guys coming into this game hot it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a treat to watch, but we'll see how the 70th meeting plays out tonight. I think it's going to be a great game, despite the ups and downs from the Penguins.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all in on watching both of these teams. The Penguins stink. I really don't think they're that good of a team. Evgeny Malkin has slowed down just a tad. In the last 10 games, he's only got 2 points. But the Washington Capitals, they are truly, they might be an elite team. I really
I
think you
predicted
can.
them to make the playoffs.
Yeah, we both did, and I truly think like you can't look at this team and see anything other than they're they're like a borderline cup contender. I mean, they have great defensemen. They're getting great goaltending. Alexander Ovechkin can't stop scoring. He's not the only guy on their team scoring. Dylan Strome looks like the third overall pick that he was. You know, I like the direction of this team. The Penguins, I'm not so sure. I do think your boy Alexander Ovechkin is really, really going to be motivated to play well against Pittsburgh, which doesn't bode well for you. And listen, would you consider December of last year part of his drought?
Ovechkin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had 8 goals on Christmas. I tweeted on December 21st, 2023. Alexander Ovechkin ended his goal drought, and the Washington Capitals ended it in overtime. So happy for Ovi. Goal chase back on.
Was that against the Penguins? No.
It was against Columbus.
Oh, okay.
It was Columbus.
I was like,
and then on November 11th of last year, almost to the day, 826 goals for Alexander Ovechkin. Only 69 more to break Wayne Gretzky's record. Nice. He also tied Gretzky for the most empty net goals in NHL history. I do find that very funny that the 2 NHL all-time leading goal scorers are also the 2 empty net leading goal scorers. Hey, it adds an extra 50, 60 goals to your total in your career. Good for you. This brother's getting to 900 next year. Like,
wow.
I know that goal. Well, he'll only need 6 more. Like, if he breaks the record, he's getting 900. Like, I know you're not dumb enough to disagree with that.
No.
I think 1,000 is firmly in play. Like,
now you're pushing it a little bit.
I'm not locked in on that like I was with the record, but I'd go 50-50 on that. Right, 1,000 goals.
That's tough. 1,000 tough.
It's tough. I know you're saying 1,000 tough, which is basically you conceding the goal record argument.
It's not. I'm not conceding. I never will.
Well, you'll never say it. You'll never say it. I know you'll know. You're too locked to say it. But who knows? Maybe I'll for Christmas award you one opportunity. By Christmas, he'll probably be.
I'm not going to do it. Is that why you award me with all these opportunities? Because you know I'm going to deny them.
I don't want to berate you the way I'm going to. When he breaks the record.
Lay it on me.
Like you think I'm bad now? You think I'm bad now? Just sending a couple text messages here and there. Oh, and don't get me started on the fact that the Washington Capitals play the Chicago Blackhawks in early April. But you know what? His goal pace, he's more likely to score based on his current pace right now. He's more likely to score goal number 900 in that game than the record-breaking goal, which is hilarious. If he keeps on this pace that he's on right now and scores 45, 50 goals, he'll break it in mid-March. There'll still be a whole month and a half left. This is great. This is outstanding. Ovi and Sid have been such a pleasure to watch over the last 20 years. I'm not sure I'm as big of a hockey diehard as I am without these two guys leading the way in the last 2 years. And you could throw in some of the guys who are a tick behind them, Evgeny Malkin. You can argue Evgeny Malkin's right there with them in the top 3. And then the tick below Stamkos, Patrick Kane, Patrice Bergeron, those guys from that era. My favorite era ever. And seeing it kind of come to a close with some of these big numbers is really, 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 really cool. Can't believe they were stars of the week. Who was the third? Was it Nietzsche from Carolina?
I was trying to figure that out. It could have been. I
think it was Nietzsche from Carolina who was
awesome
to start the season.
Isn't it going to be weird, like in a handful of years, there's going to be nobody in the NHL left from when we started watching hockey?
Yeah. For sure. I remember I had a baseball game that I was playing in the day Nathan McKinnon was drafted, because that's also the day the Devils traded for Corey Schneider. And when I played baseball, that means I was younger than 18, or I was probably 18 on the money.
But you watched it before McKinnon was drafted, right?
But that's what I'm saying. McKinnon's been in the league for that long, to the point where I was still playing baseball.
There's not many players left from when we first started watching.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Parisi's retired, Brodeur, Elias, Getzlaff, Perry. I remember life without Stamkos, but barely. And Stamkos will still be in the league for 4, 5, 6 more years.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, barely. St. Louis gone. He's a freaking coach now. Pretty good one too. But yeah, Crosby and Ovechkin, they're at the top of that mountain. And yeah, I don't foresee it ending anytime soon. I think Ovechkin plays until he's in his mid 40s, and I think Crosby plays until his early 40s. I really, really do. These guys are just horses. Like, why would they stop? What? Crosby and Ovechkin are like so productive still. They're both still top 20 players. I don't know if Ovechkin's a top 20 player anymore. He's probably top 30, though. If he keeps scoring goals like this, he'll reinsert himself into that top 20 conversation. I think Sid is still top 10. If you're drafting a guy for one season to help lead your team to the Stanley Cup, Crosby's got to be like 8, 9, 10. He's probably after the McDavids, the McKinnons. But, like, damn, have these two been fun. I hope they keep it up all season. It's a stretch, but I look at that 700 goals, 1,300 assists, 2,000 points for Sidney Crosby. It's there. We'll see. He has to stay really good. He currently has, here, I could pull that up really quickly. Sidney Crosby, you're going to say no to it, but I'm not going to fight you on it the way that I did Ovechkin. But
if he's at like 1,500, I'm going to say no.
He's got, Crosby's 37. He just turned 37 though. He's got 598 goals, 1,013 assists. Jesus Christ! Whenever someone's over 1,000 assists, that makes me crazy. 1,600 points. So he needs roughly 200. He needs 287 more assists and 102 more goals. On goals, I think is easy. You could go 20, 20, 20. 41 years old.
He could get the
600
goals,
in the back.
The points, I don't know, man.
He basically needs 60 assists a season with those 20 goals and basically be an 80-ish point guy. It's tough. I do think it's possible. It's sad when you look through his career though, and you see that big gap in between 2011 and 2012, where he only played 60 games over 2 years.
Yeah,
he's probably way more likely to reach the number I'm looking for. But 2,000 points, that would just be so ridiculous. How many points does Jaromir Jagr have? Jaromir Jagr has, let's see, 1921. If he passes that, he'll be the NHL's second all-time leading scorer. I think that is absolutely possible too.
Yeah, because that's like you're taking off the entire season. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I believe this for Crosby and Ovechkin. If they stay healthy and they stay productive, I don't see them retiring. I don't see Sid playing for the Penguins for all of it. I could see Ovechkin playing for the Capitals for all of it, which is funny because 5 years ago I would have thought the Capitals declined and the Pens stayed medium. But the Capitals almost like rebuilt on the fly a little bit, and the Penguins have just kind of slowly but surely.
Ever since the Erik Karlsson trade, I told you that's just they needed more youth, and it wasn't going to help them out. They stink.
Yeah, not that great. Speaking of stinking, Frank, to start the year so far, the Nashville Predators have been dog meat. And we came into this year both thinking they'd be a playoff team. They were a playoff team last year, and that playoff team from last year added Stamkos, who's been one of the best. He's probably like the 4th or 5th best player in the last 20 years. And then you have Jonathan Marchessault, who went to Vegas and became basically their all-time greatest player. Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, they'll pass them, the original Misfits. But right now, I think you would say the GOAT of the Golden Knights is Marchessault. He goes to Nashville. And they get Brady Shea, too, who's like the youngest handsome man to ever turn gray. But he's a good player. He's a real good player. He's been a top defenseman in this league before. Boy, are they awful. I don't know if it's the lack of chemistry. I don't know what the deal is, but Nashville just looks terrible. And earlier this week, Predators GM Barry Trotz, who I had an encounter with at the United Center a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to say it on air, but nothing too bad. He said that he's going to start looking towards a rebuild if this team don't turn this around quickly. What does that mean to you? And what does that mean for the Predators?
Well, the Predators come into the season with perhaps the biggest offseason of any team in the NHL. They went all in. They got those three guys you named, Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea. Those were their three biggest acquisitions. Not to mention that this team already had still on their roster Roman Josi, Philip Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, UC Saros. I mean, that core right there was supposed to be a huge threat. Both of us had them making the playoffs. It was hard to see a world where the Predators were a bad team, let alone this bad, right? They're last in the Central. The Blackhawks have more points than them right now. And now, like you said, Barry Trotz is spewing out a potential rebuild if this team doesn't get their act together. Now, first of all, you can't do a full strip-down rebuild with the lengths of contracts and the amount of money that some of these superstars make on this team. It's just not realistic, right, at the end of the day. Plus, if you wanted to say trade away Stamkos, Marchessault, or Shea, the three guys that you got this offseason, which would just be insane to me that you go all in and then you trade these guys. But like I said, if you wanted to trade them, they would all have to accept the move because all three have no movement clauses in their deals. So if a rebuild were to take place, I think it would be a very mild one. I don't think it would be a full stripped down rebuild. And I also think that Trotz is making these claims because I think he's trying to light a fire under this team's ass as well. I think it kind of works both ways there.
If they suck for much longer and they're January and they're 20 games under, no shot at the playoffs, 25, 30 points out of a playoff spot. No, not 25, 30. Nobody's 25, 30. I don't even think the worst team in the league will be 30 points out of a playoff spot. 10, 15 points out of a playoff spot. I would execute a full-blown rebuild. And I'll tell you why.
But it's tough. It's easier said than done.
It's easier said than done. They have so much talent that they can execute a rebuild, something unlike we've seen. Like, they have players that people would give up hella first-round picks for. If Stamkos hit the trade block right now, you don't think a Colorado or a Boston would be like, we'll give you our first pick next year, a B-plus prospect, and a fourth or something.
I do.
Ryan O'Reilly, if he went back to Colorado to be the second-line center behind the Nate Dogg, I mean,
I do think
Brady Shea. I love Brady Shea on the Devils. Marchessault, love depth like that on the wing. There's so if you put Josi on the trade block, I don't even know what the return would be for a studly defenseman like that. Same thing with Saros and net. Like the turnaround that they could have quickly if they were to actually rebuild could be something.
I agree 100%. The only problem is the lengths of contracts, the amount of money some of these contracts are. And like I said, the no movement clause. Like, I assume if they suck, like Stamkos came to Nashville on a long, what is it? Like how many years? 4 or 5?
It's a 4-year deal.
4-year deal.
If
you're coming to Nashville and you have a no movement clause in your trade, I don't see that something he waives immediately the first year after he comes here. Like, he's coming here for a reason. Like, you also have to bank on these guys waiving their no movement clause. And like I said, some of these contracts are big. There are teams that would pay that and give up a significant amount for it. But it's easier said than done to do a full, like, Chicago Blackhawks stripped down rebuild. Like that, they have like 7 or 8 guys you could trade worth big contracts. It's easier said than done. And I think there's more to it from Barry Trotz. And like I said, I think he's using it as a tool to light a fire under their ass. Now, I do think he's partially serious. I could see them stinking 15 points out of a rebuild and them getting rid of like maybe Forsberg and O'Reilly, a couple guys, but a full-on rebuild, that's tough. That's tough, and you would need a lot of things to go your way.
It is, and you would have to sell it to the fan base too, which is also something that
Right.
people take into consideration. So we'll see how that goes. Good luck to the Preds. I saw them play in person. They looked amazing next to the Blackhawks. I know the Blackhawks are lower in the stand or higher in the standings right now. I don't foresee that lasting. Nashville really kind of outplayed them hard in the one game they played against each other. But the Blackhawks, man, their goaltending has been outstanding so far. Peter Mrazek has been good. He's been playing way too much, in my opinion. Whole article on that on the Hockey News about how they need to start running a 2-goalie system. And the reason I believe they need to start running a 2-goalie system is because after many years of being a top goalie prospect, Arvid Soderblom has arrived. He is currently 1-2-1 as a result of the team in front of him stinking, but his statistics are sparkling. He has a 2.27 goals against average and a 933 save percentage. If he played that way for 45 games, be in the Vezina Trophy conversation. Allmark won with not too many games played with sparkling numbers. So why couldn't Soderblom, a fellow Swede? So he's been incredible for the Blackhawks so far. They had a chance to beat the Stars last night in a game that they played like complete dog crap because of Soderblom. What do you think about your favorite team's quote-unquote backup goaltender?
Well, he's clearly been the better of the two goalies so far this season for the Hawks. We've gotten a very small sample size for Soderblom. He's only played in 4 games, but even in the games he's losing, he looks good. He's given up 2 goals or less in 3 of those 4 games that he's appeared in this season. He shut down the Stars last night. He made 37 saves, only allowed 2 goals, and kept the Hawks in the game with the chance to get the game tied with the goalie pulled. In the Winnipeg game, in his first game of the season, he helped the Blackhawks get a point against the Jets in overtime. He also made 33 saves, only letting up 2 goals in that game. I mean, he's making the saves. He's just not getting the goal support from his teammates. And it's kind of expected now with this current roster that's put out in front of him. But boy, VP, do I like what I see right now from Arvid Soderblom. He's been fantastic.
Absolutely. He could be their starting goaltender. I can't believe they started Mrazek for 6 straight games. That's something that Luke Richardson really needs to consider. Next time, if he goes on a run of Mrazek again, I'm going to ask him, what is it keeping you from putting Soderblom in a little bit more often? I'm dead serious. And we'll see how that goes. Frank, you know that Thanksgiving is coming up in the United States of America, which in the NHL world always sparks the conversation about being above the playoff line on American Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Last year, I crapped my pants because the New Jersey Devils were not in a playoff spot on Thanksgiving. Lo and behold, they ended up not making the playoffs. And it's just weird how this statistic is like somewhat accurate. Well, right on the playoff line right now in the Western Conference stands the Utah Hockey Club and the St. Louis Blues. Yesterday, going into the evening, the St. Louis Blues had a 1-point lead on the Utah Hockey Club, and they played against each other in some Thursday night hockey, and the Utah Hockey Club won that game to jump the Blues on the playoff line. Frank, there's a lot of discourse about each of these teams kind of overperforming a little bit. To me, Utah is underperforming a little bit, and I explained why in a recent show. I don't believe I picked them to make playoffs. I'm backing off it a little bit. I still think they could, but I'm backing off of it a little bit because of how injured they are on the back end, and it's so hard to win with replacements in there on defense. The Blues are well overperforming what I thought they were going to be at 7-7-0. They're right below the playoff line. What do you think about that matchup in the game last night, their overall outlook going forward, and the fact that the Edmonton Oilers are actually right below both of them, and so are the Colorado Avalanche, who many would come into this season thinking are 2 of the 4 best teams in the West?
That win for Utah against the Blues, their 4-2 win, that was a big win for Utah. They've been really mediocre lately. They only have 3 wins in the last 10 games. They started off really nicely, and then since then have really fallen off a cliff. The Blues, on the other hand, they've been playing with a lot of heat, a little bit more than I expected from them this season. But I think they are going to slowly slump back down in the standings in the Central Division. But nonetheless, this was a huge win for Utah. If you're a Utah fan, everyone you wanted to see contributing ended up contributing in this game against St. Louis. Keller, Schmaltz, Michelli, Cooley, Dylan Gunther. They all played a massive role in their win, especially Gunther, who had 2 points, including the game-winning goal. It was just an overall great performance by the Utah Hockey Club core that you got to be happy with what you saw. And hopefully, for their sake and for their fans, this is the type of play you want to see continue and kind of mirror how they started this season and continue this through the holidays and through the start of next season.
Yeah, I like to see them do it because I'm a fan of what they're doing over there in Utah. I love Gunther. And when Connor Bedard set up Gunther for the game-winning goal in overtime, you might remember, I think I'm almost positive it was Bedard who set up the play and Gunther scored in overtime.
Sure, yeah. I remember.
And they won the gold. It was really cool. I mean, and now they're both in the NHL tearing it up, and Gunther's been amazing. He's one of the reasons I was rooting for Utah coming into this year. And every record that Jack Hughes broke in his draft year for the United States Development Program, they were all Clayton Keller's records. So, like, being a top American player in the NHL will obviously make me love you, and that's what Clayton Keller has been. I wanted to get a Keller Utah jersey because he's number 9 too, but now I'm like, would I get Gunther actually? I don't know. We'll see. Frank, one last team I wanted to kind of dive deep on real quick is the Carolina Hurricanes. So I came in thinking they were going to take a step back a little bit because they lost a couple guys on the back end, and you know how I feel about the defense in the NHL. Show me a team with a good defense, and I'll show you a team 100%. That at least has a chance to make the playoffs. A lot of people, when they think back of those Hawk Dynasty teams, if you ask a casual, like, what was that team based on? Well, they scored a lot of goals. They were an offensive team because they had Marian Hossa and Patrick Sharp and Patrick Kane. Jonathan Toews was real good offensively. But really, 3 of those 4 guys I just named would get like Selke votes. Not Patrick Kane. But Patrick Sharp, Marian Hossa, and Jonathan Toews were stout defenders. And everything they did offensively was on the back of the way they played defensively. And they had Duncan Keith and Seabrook. And so that's kind of why I thought Carolina was going to take a step back a little bit this year. They lost Brady Shea. They lost Pesci. But really what they're showing is that they're a defensive factory, and they just keep drafting and developing these guys. And their forwards are committed to a great defensive game with Nietzsche and Jarvis and not Teravainen. Teravainen's on the Hawks. Another reason I thought they'd step back a little bit. That's a good offensive piece missing from their lineup. They still have Brent Burns. Sebastian Aho's a stud. Svechnikov is a star. There's a lot of talent there. And guess what, Frank? Right now, for my money, it is hard to identify a more entertaining team to watch in the NHL than the Carolina Hurricanes. A lot of the time in recent years, the Hurricanes would like win kind of ugly. Like it'd be 2-1 or like 3-2, like nothing really too exciting. They didn't have a 100-point guy. It was like the top line and then half of a second line and then the best top 6 defensemen in the NHL. This year, it's like, well, it might not be the best top 6 defenseman in the NHL anymore, but it's a very, very good one. Fred Anderson has been healthy. He's always been good when he's healthy. And they have like, maybe they don't have like 100-point guy, but they have like 5 or 6 90-point guys projection so far. And they're 10-2-0 as a result. I find them to be Edmonton Oilers level of entertaining right now. And they're also winning on top of it. 10-2-0, top of the Metropolitan Division. What are your thoughts on one of your favorite Eastern Conference teams?
They've won 8 in a row. This is the team that when they play like this, you have to fear them come postseason. The only question is, can this team play this way for the entire season? And if they make it to the conference finals, can they sustain this level of play? Because we've seen them falter off a lot. Like, we still have a long way to go, but there's something about this team sticking out more this year than in any years past, and that's they aren't struggling to score. Like you said, and I'm glad you mentioned this because I was going to mention this, we're used to the Hurricanes playing close 2-1, 3-2 games, And their goaltending and defense allows them to pick up those close wins. We always talk about that they don't have this one megastar on their roster, but things have been different this year with their offense. During their current 8-game winning streak that they're on, they've scored 4 or more goals in 7 of those 8 games. To me, that's just a wild stat to be scoring that much. Also, just 2 of those 8 wins were 1-goal games. So they're going away from what they kind of were stereotyped on last season of winning those close 1-goal games. Only 2 of those 8 wins were 1-goal games, meaning not only are they scoring, but they're also winning those close games as well, which is just scary to think about if you're a team in the Metropolitan Division, because, I mean, I think this team's the real deal.
Absolutely. I can't even call. I basically have said it already. I can't call them boring. There's nothing boring about them. Right now, Nietzsche has 21 points in 12 games played. He's not going to have 200 points, but I mean, that's incredible. That's a very, very great start for him. Maybe he will be a 100-point guy because the next closest on the team is Svechnikov and Aho, who are right on pace. Svechnikov has 13 points. Aho has 12. They're right on pace for their typical 80, 81 points. Nietzsche, maybe he's that star top centerman that they kind of were hoping he'd become. I saw him play for the Wolves a couple years. Or no, I saw him play for the Charlotte Checkers against the Wolves in the Calder Cup final a couple years ago. That was a really fun experience. If you ever have a chance to go to an AHL playoff game, do it. I really like the addition, too, on this team of Jack Roslovic. He's been a good player in his NHL career, and right now he's got 10 points in 12 games. Good depth centerman for them so far. The career of Shane Gostisbehere confuses me because there are people that treat him like he was Eric Gustafsson. Mm-hmm. Eric Gustafsson was the biggest doo-doo defender I've ever seen, but he put up 50 points, and those 50 points don't grow on trees. But Gostisbehere, he kind of has like a similar profile, but I think the offensive ceiling is even better than a guy like Gustafsson was when he was on the Hawks. But also, like, the defending also isn't that bad. Like, he's a good player. I'm surprised that he's bounced around as much as he has so far, and Carolina's got him. And on that team and Brendan Moore's system, he's going to tighten up the screws a little bit, maybe sacrifice a tad bit of offense for it. But, I mean, he's still got 9 points in 12 games, which is a lot for a defenseman. If you're not Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes, like, that's a really good total for you so far. So we'll see how it goes for Carolina going forward, but I am excited about them as a hockey fan.
And Rod
Frank.
Whew. What a coach.
He's one of the best coaches in the MLB or NHL. I don't know why I said MLB, but he could probably coach in the MLB too. He'd probably hit 50 nukes in a season if he joined a team right now. We are going to move on a little bit and give our top 10 NFL teams according to ourselves in period number 2. I think the floor is ours to reveal to the world who we believe are the top 10 teams in the NFL right now. I'll let you go first with number 10.
Number 10. I got the Atlanta Falcons. When I take a look at the rest of the Falcons' schedule, I see a potential postseason berth for them. The 10th spot on our power rankings always fluctuates, but they deserve it. 2024 might be the year that players are finding the fountain of youth. Kirk Cousins, at 36 years old, has the 3rd most passing yards and touchdowns in the entire NFL. This team's won 5 of their last 6 games, and I would keep my eyes peeled on this Atlanta Falcons team down the stretch of the second half of the season. They've been great.
Very good, Frank. So number 10, I was going back and forth between 2 teams because the other one's obviously 11. And the reason I got them so close to each other, they're division rivals. So, like, one of them is going to win the division. One of them is going to, probably come in second and probably make the postseason. But again, this power ranking isn't a standings ranking. It is a power ranking. Mm-hmm. Who do you think would win head-to-head? Who's the better team overall, regardless of what's happened earlier in the season or whatever? The team I have at 11 jumped up from 13, and the team I have at 10 jumped up from 12. I went with the Washington Commanders as the tiebreaker over the Philadelphia Eagles. Could I see them both being in the top 10 by the end of the year? Absolutely. I'm taking the way the youth, the vibes, everything that the Commanders have brought to the table so far this season to give them the tiebreaker. I could see either one of them winning the NFC East and the other being a top wildcard team, like one of the top wildcard teams. It's good stuff for both of them, but I gave the slight edge at number 10 to the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels, who beat our favorite team, the Chicago Bears, with a Hail Mary a couple weeks ago. From then, it's just been goody McGoodness for them. And the rest of the division, the rest of the NFC, I'm not sure what – I haven't looked at every game for the rest of their schedule, but I'm fairly confident that they'll go into a lot of games believing that they can win them based on what they've done so far this season. At number 9, you'll be happy to hear this, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. It hasn't mattered if it's been Justin Fields playing poorly under center or if it's been Russell Wilson playing well under center. The Pittsburgh Steelers have found ways to win football games. If it's Justin Fields throwing for 115 yards, 1 touchdown pass, 2 interceptions, and a lost fumble, they still win that game. If it's Russell Wilson throwing for 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick, they still win that game. It doesn't matter. Mike Tomlin, one of the best coaches in NFL history, finds ways to win football games. And I pledged a couple years ago, or it was probably more like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I am not picking against the Kansas City Chiefs ever again. Even if I don't think they're going to win, I'm not saying it. You'll look like an idiot. It happened with the Patriots. Me and Joey got ahead of it before everybody. You learned your lesson. I'm not like that with the Chiefs. I'm not coming into any more seasons that Mike Tomlin is the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers thinking they're going to fall off. I will never do that again. I am done with that. As long as he is the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I will enter the season believing they have a chance to be not only over 500, one of the top teams in the AFC. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers at 9.
I like this. Our lists are fairly different this week. I like this. Number 9, I got the Green Bay Packers. 2 of the Packers' 3 losses this season have come against a division rival. The defense have been very good this season. Jordan Love, on the other hand, he's just got to learn about taking care of the football more and limit his turnovers. I think that's what's really costing this Packers team. The NFC North also, it's been no joke this season, which is even why they're 6-3, but they're 0-2 in the division, which is why they're on the outside looking in for a playoff spot. But this team has the tools, if used right, to be a real force in the NFL. We just haven't seen that from this team this year, really, and as dominant as they can be. But nonetheless, I mean, they don't look awful. And would I pick them over the Falcons if they've played each other? I would, which is why I have the Green Bay Packers at 9 and the Falcons at 10. Number 8, I got the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings have slowly come back down to earth a little bit. They picked up a much-needed victory over the Colts. I don't see anything really special coming from this team in the second half of the season, to be honest with you. They got some impressive wins on their schedule, which is why they are on this list. But I wouldn't be surprised if you told me the Vikings go 500 the rest of the season. Aaron Jones, he's been a nice pickup for the Vikings. And, of course, Justin Jefferson's been amazing as well. But this team has the talent, but I still think they're overperforming a little bit. Vikings at 8.
Very good. At number 8, I have the San Francisco 49ers. I can't quit the 49ers, dude. I don't care what their record is. They're adding McCaffrey back. They're going to get a little bit healthier. I think Kyle Shanahan is the second best coach in the NFL right now. They're in a great spot to go out. The division has kind of crapped the bed around them. The Arizona Cardinals, I think, walk into this week in first place. I don't think that's going to last. I think the San Francisco 49ers are going to start to kind of hit a stretch run here with McCaffrey healthy, and they'll be one of the good threats in the NFC again. So I really like what I think I may see for them in the future. 49ers were one of the teams I was talking about when I said this is not a standings ranking. This is a power ranking. If this was a standings ranking, San Francisco would probably be in the mid-teens, if not early 20s. But it's a power ranking. I believe going forward, they're a team I wouldn't want to play unless I was one of the 7 teams that I have ahead of them, which one of them is at number 7, the Atlanta Falcons. Dude, the Atlanta Falcons can beat anybody. Do I think they will beat anybody? No, I think there is a slight ceiling to their success this year. But I could see it wouldn't shock me if through the draft or maybe another free agency move, they find a way to get back to a Super Bowl. It wouldn't shock me at all. I think every team on this list is like a move or two away from like being a legit Super Bowl threat. The Atlanta Falcons are one of those teams. They have so many weapons on offense. Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Darnell Mooney's been coming along lately. Kirk Cousins, I don't care how old he is. Quarterback is one of those positions that when you're elite, you can kind of age okay as long as you get hurt. I mean, we saw Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, now Aaron Rodgers. They all played at a high level into their late 30s, some of them early 40s. Kirk Cousins could be no different. He could be one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the next 3 years, and that could lead the Falcons to where they want to go. Right now, I have them at number 7.
Very interesting, VP. Number 7 is a team for me that hasn't really been on my list. Now that what a disappointment to go 2-0 and then 0-7 the rest of the way. Unbelievable.
I told you their coach should be fired.
He should be fired. He
was.
Oh yeah, he was fired. I mean, they stink. I don't even think of the Saints anymore, to be honest with you.
I know. I just like bringing it up, making fun of you.
But this team, they've been quiet, a silent assassin, I believe. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. They've been slowly climbing up my power rankings. They've won 4 in a row. I think their biggest eye-opener during their 4-game win streak was beating the Bengals by 20. Now, the Bengals haven't been great, but they're better than what their record indicates. Saquon Barkley has really been a difference maker this season for the Eagles. Saquon Barkley waited 6 years to have the best season of his career, and it comes with the division rival for the Giants. That's just funny to me. This offense has been running through him, and Jalen Hurts doesn't have to rely on always throwing the ball when Barkley has been this good all season. I think the Eagles are a threat. I got the Eagles at 7. Number 6, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. This team has been a completely different team since Russell Wilson has taken over. Mike Tomlin, once again, cruising to another above 500 season. The next 2 weeks, though, are going to be tough. They got the Commanders and the Ravens back-to-back. This is the time of the season, though, where you could really prove what you're made of. I wouldn't write the Steelers out of either of those games. However, they've yet to play a divisional game this season, meaning 6 of their last 9 games will come against their division. This is going to be
them and the Bears have a very similar schedule.
They do. This will be a very interesting final stretch of the season for the Steelers. Oh, and not to mention that Najee Harris is having the best season of his career so far, something the Steelers have lacked through his first 3 years of his career. But I got the Pittsburgh Steelers at 6.
I thought of a point with the Eagles really quick before I go to 6 that kept me out, and you made me think of it. First of all, Barkley, incredible. That play, unreal. I have never seen a play like that in the NFL where he did a box leap backwards. I have never. That is the play of the year. There will not be another play in the NFL this season that tops that. That is the number 1 best play of the season. I don't think it's close. Dude, that was incredible.
It was so incredible. They were talking about it, like referencing it during an NBA game that I was watching.
Yeah.
Because somebody did a move similar to that, and like that move is just taking over the internet and the sports world. It's been unbelievable. He's been so freaking good, and that's why I think they're going to be such a huge threat down the season.
They are. The reason I thought of the real reason I kept him at 11 instead of 10. Nick Sirianni is a dingus. This guy's a freaking moron.
He is.
He will make a mistake that leads to them losing a playoff game.
And that's
he is Eberflus coaching a better roster. That's a big flaw for Philly. If they hired Harbaugh or like one of those great coaches, if they go out and get Mike Vrabel this offseason.
Mike Vrabel, I love Mike Vrabel.
The sky's the limit for them. I really think they can go on a run if they get a better coaching situation. Anyway, I digress. At number 6, I have the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold has looked a little more like Sam Darnold in the last 3 weeks. I will admit that. I do think if the Vikings want to truly win the Super Bowl in the next 5 years, I said everybody on this list is a slight upgrade away from being a Super Bowl contender. I do believe that, except the top three, I think are like perfectly content Super Bowl contenders right now. Everybody can make adjustments here and there. But at number 6, the Vikings, if they upgrade at quarterback or if J.J. McCarthy turns into a stud for them, I think they can really go on a deep run. I like the way they played. Their defense is good. It's slowed down a little bit, but they did get the big win on Sunday Night Football last week, or was it Monday Night Football? I don't remember. It was a night game, though. It was Sunday Night Football and against the Colts. And they got a big win over the Colts.
Yeah, that wasn't Monday night. I think that.
No, it wasn't. Monday night was.
I don't remember Sunday Night Football at all.
Sunday night, because the Blackhawks were on, and Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football was Vikings versus Colts, and then Monday Night Football. I'm drawing a blank on what Monday Night Football
was. It Sunday night? Was it Vikings and Colts? Oh, it was.
Yeah, I remember because it was in Minnesota. It was in Minnesota because the Colts couldn't be at home because Taylor Swift was at the Indy Stadium.
I remember.
Yeah. But yeah, the Vikings, they're a good team. They have Jefferson and Addison. Jefferson's hurt though, right? He's not playing right now.
No, he's hurt.
But he'll be back,
It's not
I
gonna be
assume.
long term.
Yeah, no. They're a solid team. And I do maybe part of their regression on offense and Sam Darnold looking a little more like Sam Darnold is not having a guy like that available, but I still think their roster overall is good, and you can't ignore starting undefeated. What were they? 6-0, one of the last undefeated teams. But yeah, and at number 5, I have a team you like very, very much, the Buffalo Bills. I think the Buffalo Bills are right there, man. I honestly think it's vibes and point of view that like can get them over the hump. Like they just have to find a way to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. And another team, they wear purple. They have to find a way to beat them too. It's not just the Chiefs for the Bills. They have to beat that other team too. That other team needs to find a way to beat the Chiefs. But like the Bills, they have two demons in the AFC to kind of get over the hump against at least one of them if they want to win the Super Bowl. And then you never know if they play my number 4 team as well in the playoffs. I think that would be a pick 'em too. But Josh Allen is right there with one or two other quarterbacks in the NFL for leading candidate for MVP this year. I like what they do on defense, and they can beat any team. It's just, will they in the playoffs? I got the Buffalo Bills at 5.
My number 5. It's going to shock you. It's going to shock a lot of people. This is definitely a team I wasn't expecting to hit my top 5 this season before the season started. I got the Washington Commanders at number 5. Jaden Daniels going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. He should. He's even in talks about possibly winning the MVP. Now, let's not get crazy. He's not going to win the MVP this season, but even being brought up in conversations about MVP is an honor. That's huge if you're a Commanders fan. Now, they haven't looked pretty the past couple of weeks, but the thing is, they keep on winning. They've won. They've got it done. And when you have an electrifying quarterback as Jaden Daniels, where you can win those games, where you can hit a Hail Mary, I mean, listen, it's luck, right? In that case, it's luck. But there are times where you have a quarterback to make plays that get you the wins, even if they're not pretty. They've won 7 out of their last 8 games. Their only loss was to the Baltimore Ravens. To me, that says a lot. So I gave them a lot of credit here. I got the Washington Commanders at number 5. Number 4, we got the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff has been sensational over the past 6 weeks, completing an NFL record 83% of his passes over that span. Also during that span, the Lions have more touchdowns with 28 than they do incompletions with only 24, a mind-boggling statistic. Montgomery and Gibbs have been a major threat on the ground. They have a prolific offense that is yet to slow down through the first half of the season. The Lions are the real deal, man. And I'm sure they're ahead on a lot of people's list, higher than 4, but I got them at 4.
At number 4, I have the Houston Texans. I think Houston, they're not like I still think they have a little more to prove before they're, a legit Super Bowl threat. But they are. I mean, they are a Super Bowl threat. It's just hard to like kind of put into words why. CJ Stroud. I know it's CJ Stroud. I'm saying it like Stroud. He's kind of having a sophomore slump, but not really. It's kind of hard. He took a slight step back. It's a little bit of a sophomore slump, but it's not like bad, like a typical sophomore slump where it's like, oh my God, I hope this guy can rebound from this. It's like, he's been good. He's been fine. The Houston Texans are obviously going to make the playoffs and be a hard team. I wouldn't want to play him in the playoffs, but they lost Diggs for the season. He's out. So we'll see if Nico Collins and Tank Dell can kind of carry the fort going forward in terms of their receiving. But listen, who's their running back? Is it not Mason?
Zach Moss?
Oh, no, Zach Moss is on the Bengals.
No, this.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah, he is. He is on the Bengals.
Who am I thinking of? It wasn't Mostert. I'm drawing a blank on who their running back. They have a good running back, and
why am I?
Mixon. That's why you thought Zach Moss. Because Moss replaced Mixon in Cincinnati. Yeah. It's Mixon. He's been incredible. I have him in one of my fantasy leagues, and he's just been dominant.
He's great. He's great.
He's a very good player. Houston is awesome. And right now I got him at 4 because of all the reasons I named. I don't see them slowing down anytime soon. At number 3, I have the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens could be 2. They could be 1. I think that way about all the teams in my top 3. Lamar Jackson, I think he is going to win MV3. I really, really do. Watching him play yesterday was maniacal. I only watched the 4th quarter, but it was awesome to watch. It's one of my favorite endings to a football game this season. Was the 4th quarter of that game yesterday between the Bengals and the 49 and the Ravens. That play he made to throw it to Bateman in the end zone, the game-winning touchdown. He kind of almost like fadeaway basketball shot where he leaned back, jumped back. It was very untraditional. He's so good with his legs. He can throw the ball now. He's right there for the best quarterback in the NFL. I think the world of Lamar Jackson. I could go through all the great players they have. Derrick Henry has been. If there was a MVP for non-quarterbacks, it probably would be Derrick Henry so far this season. And he's been incredible. Odell Beckham Jr., Bateman, Flowers. It's a good team on offense, and their defense has struggled at times. But, and it didn't look particularly good yesterday. But when you have Lamar Jackson and he is playing at the highest of high levels, your team has to be considered because the quarterback is the most important thing in all of sports. And with Lamar there doing what he does with that offense, I have them at number 3.
Number 3, I got the Buffalo Bills. Plain and simple. Josh Allen has something to prove this year after that awful roller coaster start last year, ups and downs the entire season. This year, this team's more dominant. They're running away with their division. The division's theirs. The Bills have some tough matchups and interesting ones on their schedule over the next month and a half. And I can assure you that every one of those games is going to be exciting, fun to watch, and statement games for this Bills team as they march right on into the postseason. I love what I'm seeing out of the Bills this year. It's really been incredible that they completely said, let's forget about last season. We're going to start off hot. It's been great. It's been a treat to watch. I love this Bills team. Big fan of the Bills. I hope they go on to win the Super Bowl. I really do. Number 2, got the Baltimore Ravens. It was very close on who would I put here at number 2, the Bills or the Ravens. But the Ravens get the edge because of, just the way they look overall. They beat down the Bills earlier on this season. They had that great game last night against the Bengals. I mean, we just got that extra game to go off of to compare than any of the other teams on this list. But the Ravens always find a way to scratch and claw their way back into games no matter what. They found themselves down 21-7 over one of their biggest rivals, and they still managed to win the game. The Ravens never let a deficit rattle them. Now, something you mentioned as well is their defense. That needs improvement come playoff times. They're not going to win a Super Bowl if you give up 30 points a game, but you never know. With Lamar Jackson, if you're scoring 30 points a game, I mean, he just makes this team so much better, so much more fun to watch. I mentioned this in shows past, but he makes a 3rd and 20 look like a 3rd and 5 just because the way he moves with the ball and the way he airs the ball out. He's so prolific. He probably will win MV3 again. He probably will. We'll see. But this team, man, this Baltimore Ravens team, they're good, but their defense really does scare me. It does.
The term Hall of Fame hadn't entered my mind when thinking about Lamar Jackson until yesterday. I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, he's going to win MVP again. That'll be 3.
Yep.
He's going to the Hall of Fame. Like, he will be remembered as one of the best quarterbacks who ever lived.
He's great.
At number 2, I'm going to say 1 and 2 at the same time because you could do that too. Or you already said your 2, but yeah. Well, okay. So I'm just going to say my 2 and 1 at the same time. Yeah, but at the same time. 1 is Kansas City, 2 is Detroit, right? Okay. Detroit, to me, is actually the best team in the NFL. I really don't even hearing you put them at 4 was a little surprising to me. I don't even think it's close that Detroit is actually the best team in the NFL. I ranked them 2 because I refuse to be that guy who says that the team that's 8-0 and has won the last 2 Super Bowls is anything other than the best team in the NFL. I can't. And if push comes to shove, I think the Lions can beat everybody in the league by 30. And they basically have. But the Chiefs, if they dink and dunk their way to a win over the freaking Lions in the Super Bowl, I can't say I would be surprised. When they were playing, that's what it was. It was the Chiefs on Monday Night Football against the Buccaneers. When they were playing on Monday Night Football, and they went to overtime with the Buccaneers, and the head referee with the dumb white hat says, Kansas City Chiefs have won the coin toss, and Patrick Mahomes goes like this. Game over. Done. You knew Jared Goff wasn't even going to touch the football.
You mean
game over. Or Baker Mayfield, excuse me. But that would be Jared Goff if they play each other in the Super Bowl. Over. And they didn't even look that good. They're not that good. They're the worst, best team in NFL history, and I still think they're going to three-peat. They're the Patriots. They dink and dunk on you and piss you off for 3 hours, 24 points, whatever, nothing to write home about, and then they find a way to win. That's the way it is, and freaking, I don't know what else to say. Detroit's better. They're better all around. They are in no way, shape, or form a better team on or worse team on paper than the Chiefs, other than the quarterback. Goff could be, if there was an AFC MVP and an NFC MVP, Goff would be the NFC MVP. I wholeheartedly believe that. He's been really, really good. He's been better than Mahomes this season. But when push comes to shove, and it's that final play, or you have a 2-minute drill, or the game goes to overtime, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to find a way, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it in my mind. They might go undefeated. They might go 19-0, or I guess it would be 20-0 now with the extra game. Wouldn't shock me. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, my number 1's the Kansas City Chiefs as well, just because, like you said, they're the only team undefeated. They're the only team to stay exactly where they've been to start the season on the power rankings list. They've not moved once, but they like you said, they don't look good, but I can't not have them at 1. I can't put them anything other than 1, just because Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes find ways to win. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't matter. They're never out of the game. They always win no matter what. And I hope the Chiefs win this week, because the Chiefs got a date with Josh Allen and the Bills in a couple weeks, and I want the Bills to give the Chiefs their first loss. Allen has been able to beat Mahomes in the regular season. Don't shake your head. He owns Mahomes in the regular season. The Bills will win that game. Mark my words, the Bills will win that game against the Chiefs. I can't wait. Their first asterisk, mark, whatever you want, blemish on their record will be from Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. I cannot wait.
Totally. Absolutely.
Woo!
Who do the
The
Chiefs
only
play this
problem I
week?
have, I don't even know. I looked at it and I'm like, oh, they're 9-0. It's like the Raiders or
Let's see.
something, or the Colts. I forgot who.
Oh,
Somebody.
no, it's the Broncos. It's the Broncos who have been good.
Oh yeah, Broncos. Nah, they'll win. They'll beat the Broncos.
Oh, they'll kill them. And then hear this, Frank.
Bills.
Hear this. They play the Broncos, then the Bills, then the Panthers.
Yep.
And then the Raiders, and then the Chargers, and then the Browns. Texans is a good challenge. Steelers is a good challenge. Broncos is a good challenge. If they go undefeated, it'll be like this all-time great undefeated season because it's all these good teams down the stretch. But they won't look good in any of them, but they'll win. I can't believe you're just coming on here going, oh, I can't wait. Bring me the Chiefs as a Bills guy.
He's owned the Chiefs in the regular season. It's the playoffs he struggles with. I'm pretty sure he might be undefeated against Patrick Mahomes in the regular season.
Isn't he pick the Bills in a playoff game. I can look that up. You would pick the Bills in a regular, or you would pick the Bills in a playoff game against the Chiefs.
In a playoff game, it's different. In a playoff game,
I don't care that it's different.
I get the sweats then in a playoff game. In a regular season game, I'll take the Bills any day because he's proved it.
Josh Allen is 3-1 in his career against the Chiefs.
Make it 4-1 in a couple weeks. He's 0-3 in the playoffs, I think it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes has only lost in the playoffs to Tom Brady and Joe Burrow.
But he will lose in the regular season.
Joe Burrow's not going to the playoffs because the Bengals stink. Burrow will come third in MVP.
Burrow will come
third in MVP.
VP.
Listen, Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, they all won Super Bowls while Tom Brady was in the league. No, I'm giving Allen hope. I'm giving Allen hope. When Tom Brady was in the league, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, they all won a Super Bowl. But Tommy Boy won 6. So maybe Lamar, Josh Allen, maybe they will each get 1. It's possible.
He will.
But Mahomes actually looks better than Tom. We'll see.
I know.
We'll see.
I don't know, VP. We'll see. I can't wait. I love it.
It'll be a good one. All
All
right, Frank, it's time.
325. Come on.
Well, it's the big boy game. It's probably Tom Brady calling the game with Jim Nance on Fox. Or not.
Sunday
no. I see what you're saying.
Different. It would hit different.
Yeah. It would hit different. But we'll see. It's time for America's favorite podcast segment of the week, Breaking Bets.
Where's my money, bitch?
Frank, the floor is yours to close out the show with Breaking Bets.
We've gone 3 consecutive weeks with winning more picks than we've lost. We just still haven't gotten to that 500 mark. Now, if we go 2 for 1, we'll be 50%. We've gone 3-0, 2-1, 2-1 over the last 3 weeks. Let's continue that hot stretch. And we're going to start off with an NHL bet for you tonight. The Penguins at the Capitals. 70th meeting all time between Crosby and Ovechkin. The Capitals are the better team this season by a mile. But Crosby has been on a heater, and this is a rivalry 20 years in the making. Crosby knows this. The Penguins know this. The Penguins are going to come to play in a rivalry game such as this one, and I think the Penguins upset the Capitals on the road tonight. I'm taking the Penguins money line, baby, at plus 142 for 2 units. I think the Penguins are going to come to play, and I think they upset the Capitals tonight. Penguins money line plus 142 for 2 units. Big dog there, the Penguins are. Saturday, we got number 11 Alabama at number 16 LSU. Huge playoff implications in this one. The loser of this game is going to miss the college football playoff with 3 losses. 2 prolific offenses are coming to collide. If you love college football, you'll be watching this game. With the new playoff format, with 12 teams making the college football playoff, these games are bigger than ever before. These games finally mean something. In years past, these teams probably wouldn't make the college football playoff. Maybe Alabama, if they got some wins down the stretch, they'd be top 4. But now 12 teams, implications have never been bigger. LSU is yet to lose a game at home this season. And with so much on the line, they should be able to disrupt Alabama's offense. Both of Alabama's 2 losses this season have come on the road, and I expect the third one as well. I'm taking LSU plus 2.5 points at minus 105, bet to win 3 units. And finally, brings me to Sunday for the NFL. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Washington Commanders. We're going to take the Steelers plus 3.5 at minus 136, bet to win 3 units. This pick comes down to what I like better from what I've seen from these teams over the past handful of weeks. The Commanders' recent wins, they've been nothing special. The Steelers' offense and defense, they've been shining. The Steelers, over their past 3 games, have scored 95 points and have only given up 46 points. The Steelers are proving they have more than just a defense, more than a steel curtain. With the way these 2 teams have been playing lately, I think it's a steal to get the Steelers with a field goal and a half, to be honest with you. I think they're not going to get blown out by the Commanders. Commanders haven't blown out anybody lately. So I think the Steelers at plus 3.5 is the safe bet at minus 136, bet to win 3 units. I like it. Let's have a good week, and we'll see what happens. You're muted.
Whoops. I can't thank you enough for good show. Really good breaking bet segment. Some good conversation. I don't know what to say about the NFL. Like, it's hard to pick against the Chiefs. I think the Lions are that good. We'll see what happens. I hope everybody enjoys this slate of games coming up this weekend in both the NHL and NFL. You could come back to the Barroom Network and keep up to date on all of it. Very much looking forward to it. And Frank, is there anything left you got to get off your chest before we head on out of here?
No, not really. It was a great show. I thank everybody for tuning in. We had Tom, Skokes, Travis, thank you guys for watching. It's been a fun show, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Absolutely. And make sure you watch all the shows here on the Barroom Network for all great content on the NFL. I said NFL twice. NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB. And we'll come back next Wednesday or next Friday, where Frank and I will be continuing our hockey conversation as usual. For Frankie Mueller at the King Bean on Twitter, I am at Vinnie Parisi. As always, have a great weekend.